Oh, crap. Main. Laconic. Quotes. Video examples. More. BR to image links NL playing with. Create subpage. Create new. Analysis archive awesome characters derivative work. Fanworks fanficari CS fridge funny haiku head scratchers heartwarming image source media notes. Newsletter nightmare fuel quote source recap referenced by shocking tearjerker timeline. Trivia WMGYMMV. And it's only a matter of time before Simba gets an even bigger one because of what happens next. It's that moment of dawning comprehension I live for. Hobbes on ambushing Calvin, and Hobbes. The moment at which a character realizes that something really bad is about to happen. Either that, or it already has and they are in big trouble because of it. They may not always say anything in particular when they do, but even if they do not, the look on their face clearly conveys to the audience their realization. This moment often features stronger language, and is when they truly realize that things are about to royally hit the fan. Sometimes the first few notes of Frédéric Chopin's Funeral March are used as background music to highlight how grim the situation is. There are lots of ways to react to moments like this. Characters may often exclaim stuff along the lines of "You have got to be kidding me, I want my mommy." Or sometimes even "This cannot be." Other characters might emit a loud gulp instead. A few might say their catchphrase but in an uncertain voice. Some might even freeze in fear completely. On the other hand, other characters may react more with despair rather than full-on fear. A few others may look to their equipment for a solution. And finally, for some, it is the crowning moment of despair. The effectiveness of this moment can be affected by the difference between their usual competence and confidence levels and how completely they are boned. Characters with low self-esteem or who are constantly crying out in terror are difficult, but not impossible, to make this trope work with, and may react more along the lines of "This is gonna suck." But that arrogant, so far unbeatable supervillain suddenly realizing they're about to have his or her ass royally kicked. Now we're talking. Can occur if one protagonist has been luring the other one into a trap, or if they just have some shiny new skill. Or they may simply be a lower-level villain who's just had the very bad luck to be confronted with a hero impossibly out of his or her league and is about to be on the wrong end of a curb-stomp battle. On occasion, they will be discussing the situation when they realize either the full import of it, or worse, that it's about to happen to them. Can also occur if a character speaks ill of another in a language they think the latter won't understand, only to find out, much to their horror, that the latter also speaks it. This is the polar opposite of Obi-Wan moment, when despite the bad situation someone still manages to look composed. May result in a heroic BSOD for a heroic character, or even a villainous breakdown for a villainous character. 9 times out of 10, this will immediately follow "What does this button do?" The remaining 10th follow some other temptation of fate. Also a very common reaction when a villain, normally the chess master, villain with good publicity, or manipulative bastard, realizes they've just been the victim of an engineered public confession. The villain knows moment may lead to this. When this trope becomes literal, that's "bring my brown pants," as Bill Cosby once said, first you say it, then you do it. When most of the cast available in the scene does this expression, it's a mass "oh, crap" moment. If someone tries to explain the situation to someone else, and realizes halfway through their own explanation they're in real trouble, it's explain. Oh, crap. If the person making the realization doesn't try to explain and says nothing but run, it's time to run or die. If you realize you are in trouble after your explanation, or if someone tells you something really bad is about to happen and "oh, crap" isn't your first reaction, it's a delayed "oh, crap." When you try to save some face by putting on a happy face, you make an "oh, crap" smile. When you pretend to realize you are in trouble only to mess with your opponent, it's an "oh, crap" fake out. When your primary reaction is resigned acceptance of the situation, it's "this is gonna suck." See also wide eyes and shrunken irises. Say your prayers may be involved as part of this reaction. Contrast hell, yes. Moment, the exact inverse. Warning, high risk of spoilers, due how trope often occurs in the climax. No real-life examples, please. Examples subpages. Anime and manga. Boruto. Dragon Ball. Initial D. One Piece. Zombieland Saga. Comic books. The DCU. Marvel Universe. Fan works. Films animation. Despicable Me 3. Films live action. Literature. Live action TV. Doctor Who. Odd Squad. Orphan Black. A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. Pro wrestling. Video games. Web animation. Webcomics. Web original. Western animation. Big City Greens. My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Other examples. Open/close all folders. Advertising. AT&T. A commercial entitled Sisters has one woman finally meeting her newborn niece, but slow upload speeds freeze her screen at the wrong time. It appears she's giving a dirty look, accidentally snubbing her sister's daughter. Another commercial titled Superfan has a superfan's video call lose connection, causing him to lose out on his chance to ask Elijah Wood a question. Geico. A commercial has the gecko and an executive talking about the trust that Geico represents. The executive proposes one of those corporate trust-building exercises, in which he will fall backwards and the gecko will catch him. The gecko, being about 8 inches high, attempts to talk him down to no avail. The last shot is the gecko, as the executive begins to lean back, looking up, oh dear. Another commercial where the gecko is eating a bag of chips. The CEO commented he wanted to show him the first dollar he ever made. Cue the look on the gecko's face when he realized the dollar he used to buy the chips was said dollar. A Dutch insurance company has a long line of TV ads with the slogan "Even Apeldoorn bellen," pragmatically translated to "Just call us," after someone has realized he has a problem, or in some cases, when only the viewer has realized it. Some of these ads require knowledge of Dutch language or culture, but some don't. While it's doubtful any insurance could help those people out of it, they do tend to make a wonderful funny moment. Raid Insecticide Campaign. The commercials for Raid pest killers have been doing this for years, with whatever talking pest in the commercial shouting "Ray-ay-ay-ay-ay-ay-ay-ay-ay" before dying. The GameStop bunny has one of these. The Chips Ahoy commercial where the human-sized talking cookie is at a little girl's birthday, having fun with the kids, but then asks, "Cookie, where's the cake? Birthday girl, we're not having cake, Cookie, oh." An Energizer Bunny commercial featuring Dracula resulted in the Count invoke this trope in a rather deadpan snarker fashion after locking himself out of his castle chasing the bunny, at daybreak. Dracula, oh, great. Poof. In the campaign Never Say No to Panda, Panda being a make of Arab cheese, almost everybody realizes they've made a mistake once they say no to panda cheese and a giant panda is standing over them. Special mention goes to the dad in the grocery store the second time around. 2 M&M's commercials come to mind. In this one, Red, aka milk chocolate, is set up with Kristen by Ms. Brown and Kristen locks the doors once she's alone with Red. To people who talk about how bad the one with Maxwell and a human female in a car is, tell them about a female actually hinted to be about to have sex with a freaking piece of candy. This commercial has Naya Rivera of Glee being wooed by Red only to lick the back of his head and make him realize she wants to eat him, and her girlfriends go the same way. In France, many commercials for a brand of candies called Kiss Cool had these moments. In one of them, a man in a bunny suit who has to entertain children gets stage fright before he can perform. After eating the candy, he gains confidence and goes to see the kids chanting for him, only to realize said children were replaced by hunters. Oh, crap! Face from the guy, who slowly walks away. John Jameson, when he comes face to face with a giant octopus while saving a lost barrel of his whiskey, and after chopping open a dam to flood Dublin. A very dark instance of this occurs in the 2002 commercial for Universal's Halloween Horror Nights. It starts off with the caretaker deciding which tool he will use to dissect his victim alive with, via eeny meeny miny mo. When he gets to the final mo, the victim silently does this reaction. In a 2014 Walgreens Christmas commercial, a mother and father are eating the cookies they left out for Santa, when they glance out the window and see the big man on the roof of a neighbor's house. They get this trope and then race out to replace the cookies they ate, making it just in time. Glock. Somebody really picked the wrong diner. If you're not playing Sega Saturn, then the moment Segata Sans Hero blocks your path is your cue to utilize this trope. Because afterwards, you're not going to leave without bruises of him beating the crap out of you for not playing the console. Don't worry, he'll leave a Sega Saturn next to your body so you stop being in his hit list. Your cousin from Boston has this reaction when he accidentally unleashes a groundhog in a bar. Your cousin, happy Groundhog Day. I brought Sam Adams cold snap and this groundhog holds up a carrier with the door open and sees that it's empty. Uh-oh. This then leads to a mass oh, crap. As the groundhog wreaks havoc on all the screaming patrons, while your cousin goes from worried to mildly annoyed. Your cousin, screamin' isn't helpin'. It's like they never seen a groundhog in a bar before. Asian animation. Lampoot. In Guilt, Specs Doc's facial reaction to him popping the balloon he thinks is Lampoot looks nothing short of panicked. Downplayed in Orange Rose when Skinny Doc has a face that isn't panicked, but still surprised when he realizes he gave Lampoot to the woman when he was supposed to have Lampoot with him. In Skinny's Dance Night, Lampoot looks panicked when he realizes Skinny Doc is late for his date. Comedy. From the Frantics skit Ti Quan Leap. Master, have you learned nothing from the lesson of Ed Grubberman? Student, yes master, I have learned two things. First, that anger is a weapon only to one's opponent. Master, very good. Student, and secondly get in the first shot. Boot to the head. Whoosh master, you missed. Student, yeah. This is the basis for Bill Burr's old man face bit. As men reach a point they are no longer able to get up on their own and are forced to listen to their wife's nagging, the horror sets in. Bill Cosby touches on this in his grandparents' routine as part of the Live film himself. Cosby, look, you're driving a truck. Here comes another truck, gonna hit you. Now whether you hit the truck or not, you're going to have soiled underwear. Because first you say it, then you do it. Now here comes your mother to the hospital. Did he have on clean underwear? Yes, we found it in the glove compartment. Comic strips. Calvin and Hobbes. Pretty much every time Hobbes pounces on Calvin coming home, Calvin makes an oh crap face just before impact. One strip doesn't even show the impact, jumping directly from Calvin's deer in the headlights oh no to the aftermath. Also happens when Hobbes is hiding on a tree limb and drops a single snowball in front of Calvin to get him to look up so he can see the full payload of snowballs Hobbes is about to dump on him from above. The last panel supplies the page quote. When he seceded from his family to go live in the Yukon, Hobbes wrestles command from him. As Calvin leaves him, announcing that he's going home, Hobbes reminds him that he no longer has a home, since he seceded from his family. His reaction is priceless. Calvin, my life needs a rewind/erase button. The far side has two doctors looking with alarm out of the window of a Center for the Study of Viral Pathology at a jar broken on the crowded sidewalk below and oozing liquid. The caption, "Uh-oh. Garfield, John is having a delayed reaction." The look on Garfield's face, even without a single word, says everything. In Spy vs. Spy, the losing spy occasionally displays this expression when he realizes he's been out-schemed and is about to die in some humorous fashion. Eastern European animation. In Masha and the Bear, Masha causes no shortage of heart attack-worthy reactions from the poor bear whenever she puts herself in harm's way. Game books. Many endings in choose-your-own adventure books result in your death or worse. A good portion of these are accompanied by a detailed drawing of your OhCrap moment, the actual moment you leave the planet, or both. Any book in the series illustrated by Judith Mitchell is guaranteed to invoke this multiple times, even when you're not necessarily at a death ending. These occur so often that entire websites have been established to showcase the worst ones. Another fair sample can be found here. In the fighting fantasy book The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, the eponymous final boss will have one if you use the Eye of the Cyclops against him. Lone Wolf. While many of Lone Wolf's enemies give an OhCrap reaction when the hero inevitably derails their schemes, the Dark Lords you face in Book 12 are great examples. After spending the entire series struggling to stop their forces from destroying everything, seeing these ancient incarnations of evil voiding themselves in fear when they realize Lone Wolf can actually kill them is extremely satisfying. The best one out of all of them is Archlord Nag's expression of panic blazing madly in his eyes moments before being atomized by the Sommer Sword if Lone Wolf brought it with him. Big Bad Ixiatiga in Book 17 has a similar reaction when he realizes Lone Wolf has a weapon that can kill him. His panic causes him to use nearly all of the power of the Death Staff in a huge energy blast in the hopes of killing Lone Wolf instantly. Provided Lone Wolf survives the attack, Ixiatiga is then stuck trying to fight him with an uncharged Death Staff. Still pretty strong, however. A good one from Venodar the Traitor in Book 3, The Caverns of Kalti. Who dares disturb me? He hisses, rising from the Brumalmark throne, his eyes searching for an intruder. Upon seeing you, he emits a horrified gasp and fumbles for his black staff. He has the look of a criminal who has been discovered in the act of some dreadful crime. Lone Wolf himself throughout the series reacts with fear every time he encounters the horrifying crypt spawn. It really doesn't help that they are a favorite summoned minion of the major villains. He also reacts badly to the mech wolf in Book 19. The sight of an enemy devoid of any actual life or even unlife scares the hell out of him. Appears in the Nintendo Adventure books on occasion as well. The Crystal Trap, where Zelda must go on a fetch quest to find the elements to free Link from the titular crystal prison, is probably the best example. Several of the endings have Zelda awaiting a terrible fate, sinking in quicksand or becoming a sitting duck for enemies, for failure to have the correct item. Jokes. The shortest unit of time is the Ono-second. This is the period that elapses between causing a major disaster and realizing what one has done. Music. In a general live performance sense, this is fairly common, for obvious reasons. Just a few of the things that can invoke it. You're the singer, and you've just forgot your lines, or you've came in at the wrong place, or you've fallen to vocal range exceeded. Or, alternately, you're one of the other members of the band and you notice the singer is in trouble. Similar for guitarists making major errors, or having lied about their skill level beforehand, and really a problem if the drummer, bassist, or rhythm guitarist is the person having issues keeping the beat, that often induces a small version of mass OhCrap. With all the other band members realizing just how bad the song's going to sound and how bad the gig is likely going to be. Someone has gotten sick or injured on stage or in the audience. This one easily turns into mass OhCrap. As well, for obvious reasons. One of the band members' sound output is failing somehow. It's worse if it's one of the guitars, including the bass, or the keyboards, because that carries the possibility that the instrument itself failed, though it's usually only a loose connection. While venues may have extra mics for a singer to use in a pinch, most don't have a stray electric guitar or bass or keys lying around, and even if the person has a backup, the show may have to stop to set up the new instrument. For a visual K-band or other act that uses a lot of stage makeup, special effects, and the like, a special effects failure. If said special effects failure involves pyro, OhCrap, and mass OhCrap, are the best outcomes. Gakupo's reaction in Madness of Duke Vainomania when he realizes just who the girl in his arms really is, just before being stabbed in at by Karches, who dressed himself up as a woman to save Euphana, one of the Duke's harem, and take revenge on him. When German pop act Milli Vanilli performed live on MTV in 1989, Everything was going well until their hit song Girl You Know It's True started skipping during the chorus. Unfortunately, there don't seem to be any videos on YouTube that aren't either dubbed over or butchered, revealing that it was pre-recorded and that Milli Vanilli were lip-syncing all along. The two continued dancing and singing along before that sinking feeling set in and they realized that the gig was up. This was the beginning of the end for the band. From Kenny Rogers' song The Coward of the County, when some rapists get confronted by the boyfriend of their victim and think that they have him cowed, only to end up trapped in a room with him right before getting a no-holds-barred beatdown. But you could have heard a pin drop when Tommy stopped and locked the door. In Dinosaurchestra Part 3 by Lemon Demon, the time machine which the narrator used to go back to the late Cretaceous period and start a rock band with dinosaurs can't make the return trip, and then, what's that rock way up in the sky? Gorillas. In the music video for Stylo, when 2D and Middock realize that they are being chased and shot at by none other than Bruce Willis. The music video for The Lost Chord has Middock sporting this expression throughout almost the entirety of the band's time at Plastic Beach, and it only gets worse as Poseidon emerges from the depths of the ocean and begins to destroy it. Understandable, considering that Middock has been struggling throughout the entire season to prove to the band that he's becoming a better person, only to be unceremoniously thrust back to the place that practically serves as a monument to his worst mistakes and most cruel actions. In the beginning of Welcome to the Jungle, a singer briefly and subtly says "Oh my God," before any of the intro gets through. In the song Get My Gun by D12, Eminem angrily threatens a fan with a gun. "What's up, bitch? Cox gun, autograph this." Gun jams, oh, shit. Speaking of Eminem, the title character of Stan is recording the latest letter he's sending to his hero on an audio tape while his pregnant girlfriend is locked in the boot of his car and he's about to drive them all off a bridge to their deaths. He has a massive "oh, crap" when he realizes just before the car goes over the edge that he's overlooked one fairly important point. "Well, gotta go, I'm almost at the bridge now / oh shit. I forgot. How am I supposed to send this shit out?" Followed by Eminem getting one himself as he responds to Stan's previous letter, telling him that he needs to calm down before he does something crazy, like this one psycho on the news who locked his girlfriend in the trunk of his car and drove off a bridge. And in the car they found a tape, but they never said who it was to / come to think about it, his name was, "It Was You, damn." In Der Erlkönig, the boy is increasingly terrified, and justly so, each time he tries to get it through to his father that the Earl King is after him. The boy. "Oh no. No. Please God help me." More or less mankind's reaction in the final verses of Iron Man, by Black Sabbath. In the fourth verse. "Now the time is here for Iron Man to spread fear. Vengeance from the grave kills the people he once saved." In the final verse, along with the pleas above by Ozzy. Heavy boots of lead fills his victims full of dread, running as fast as they can. Iron Man lives again. As explained by Geezer Butler, who wrote the lyrics. Ozzy came up with the title Iron Man, and I wrote it about this guy who's blasted off into space and he sees the future of the world, which isn't very good. Then he goes through a magnetic storm on the way back and is turned to iron. He's trying to warn everyone about the future of the world, but he can't speak, so everyone is taking the mickey out of him all the time, and he just doesn't care in the end. If you are or were a teenaged boy, you probably cringe when you hear the lyrics to the Everly Brothers' "Wake Up Little Susie." The final verse of Nickelback's Animals has the main characters getting busy in the protagonist's car by the tracks. Everything's going well until the girl notices that her dad is right outside the car and has caught them in the act. And worse, the keys aren't in the ignition because they fell on the floor in the middle of it. Oh crap indeed. The narrator in One by Metallica has this when he realizes that he lost his sight, speech, hearing, and limbs due to a landmine, but his mind functions perfectly, so he is a prisoner inside his own body. The Mariner's Revenge song by the Decembrists tells the story of a little boy whose widower mother was conned out of house and home by a traveling vagrant who eventually left them so destitute that she developed a fatal case of tuberculosis, but not before begging her son to one day exact justice on the man, find him, bind him, tie him to a pole and break his fingers to splinters, drag him to a hole until he wakes up, naked, clawing at the ceiling of his grave. The boy spends 15 years as a street orphan until he's taken in by a friary, but never loses his desire to exact revenge upon the con man, until one night he discovers that the man has become a ship captain. He joins a crew and sets sail in the hopes of finding him. One night their two ships finally cross paths, but before the narrator can do anything, both crews are devoured by a giant whale, leaving only the narrator and the con man alive. It's only right when the narrator is about to finally fulfill his mission that the con man realizes just what kind of death he's in for. It gives my heart great joy to see your eyes fill with fear. So lean in close and I will whisper the last words you'll hear. In the Ice-T song Midnight Ice-T, Evil E, D, and Hen had just stopped two people from carjacking them. Ice then turns to see that the jackers had brought along a bunch of their friends. Look to my left, there were two more carloads niggas in hats and hoods in an attack mode, and they hadn't yet begun to fight. He hit the gas, it was 1 past midnight. The Farseeds oh shit sees each member of the group describe situations they were in that led to these moments. All of them played for laughs. Hey You, by Pink Floyd. Here, the protagonist realizes what a large mistake he made after completing his mental wall, and in the process, isolating himself from society. The rest of the song details his attempts to reconnect with society, but to no avail. But it was only fantasy. The wall was too high, as you can see. No matter how he tried, he could not break free. And the worms ate into his brain. The Swedish folk song Hargaladen has a mysterious player arrives at a feast and start playing a strange tune no one can stop dancing to. At the end of the first verse, someone notices his feet and exclaims, "God saves us, he has the foot of goat." The Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island song It's Terror Time Again by Skysicle is about running and being chased by real monsters. As the title indicates, the characters have a lot more to be terrified about than usual, as conveyed in both the movie stills and the song lyrics. Here comes the really scary part. The music video for The Boy Is Mine by Brandy and Monica has an understated one at the end, in which the two-timing boyfriend, both girls are bickering over, knocks on the door of one of the girls' apartment and discovers both girls are waiting for him there. The last shot is of his dismayed expression. The video for Bibidaiba by Hololive's Hojimaki Swase revolves around a Cinderella-themed music video shoot that goes off the rails due to the actions of the prima donna director. After the director angrily lambastes Swase's manager for her blowing a take due to falling during a dance number, which she warned him could happen because of the glass slippers, the stage hands, the Prince Charming actor, and Swase's manager all look nervous when Swase and the director start arguing, and react with shock when they throw things at each other and then have to restrain them before they can come to blows. Myths and religion. All the way back in the Bible. Specifically, the Book of Esther. More specifically, when Haman realizes he's inadvertently ordered the death of the queen, whom her husband the king values enough to have been willing to offer up to half his own kingdom at her request. In the Book of Mormon, the judges and lawyers in the city of Amaniha execute an untold number of women and children for believing the preaching of the prophets Alma and Amulek in attempt to prove that God is not on their side. After thoroughly rubbing this in the two prophets' faces and tormenting them for days in their prison cell, they suddenly see both prisoners break their bonds, showing that God really is with them. Chaos ensues as the guilty try in vain to flee from the judgment of God. An even older example occurs in the 18th book of the Odyssey. Odysseus, posing as an old beggar, is challenged to a fist fight by an actual beggar, Eros, who is big, but neither strong for his size nor really a fighter. After vainly trying to dissuade Eros from this, Odysseus finally agrees to the fight and girds his loins for the fight. And then the watching suitors and Eros see the muscles on Odysseus' legs, chest and arms. When the title character of Oedipus Rex finally figures it out, making this older than feudalism. Pinball. Mousing around, both the playfield and the back glass show one of the three mice panicking at the sight of a man looming in front of them threateningly. Q gets one in Star Trek, The Next Generation if you do well in the QS Challenge mission. Q, okay, that's enough. Podcasts. Cool Kids Table. In the Firefly game. As soon as Mickey gets the coordinates to the stranded Alliance ship, he realizes they lead right into Reaver territory and immediately reports it to Caleb and Rock. When Alan asks the party to roll deception to act natural in episode 16, the first things out of Shannon and Jake's mouths after rolling are "Oh no. Worst foot forward" played Glaze of Glory, a game about squires contriving to get knights killed, to commemorate episode 200. At one point Barry McStay gets a little bit carried away and has the rather arrogant knight he's temporarily controlling tell the King of Gloria, who has already killed 2 members of his entourage, that she hopes seeding the river with fake fish was pleasing to His Majesty, before adding, "I certainly think it should be." Then there's a moment of stunned horror from the players, broken only by GM Johnny Chiodini going, "Ooh shit." Tabletop games. Exalted, it's been made explicit that this is going to be the general Yosi reaction to heresy charms. When an infernal creates swallowing the scorpion and snaps the tethers linking his shard to Lilwyn, the phylactery womb will scream in pain, and it's around that point that Malphias, the demon city, literally shits bricks. In the 2nd edition core book, in the section on limit breaks, there's a picture of a female thug, having just knifed a guy, looking very surprised to see a hulking man entering the red rage of compassion. From Warhammer 40,000. The reaction of an in-universe soldier to seeing a Chaos Champion being possessed by a greater daemon. Described in a few places in the background. One text box sidebar in either the Chaos Marines or Chaos Demons Codex describes an Eldar Autarch's reaction to seeing a Slaaneshi champion being possessed by a greater daemon. His initial reaction is to resign himself to die fighting, but then its magic takes over and he stands there staring at it as it eviscerates him. When the Imperium tacticians were trying to figure out how the Tyranid fleet was appearing at random locations far too quickly, and then realized that the Tyranid fleet was not coming at the galaxy from the edge, but from below the galaxy. You can see one single fleet's attack movements here. Remember that this is one fleet, the Tyranids likely have thousands. The Eldar, who are an entire race of smug, but very competent, snakes, get one just about whenever they realize that the monkeys or the barbarians are going to go down hard or win. Notable was at the Siege of Auror's Sepulchre, when they deployed the Avatar of Cain, a shard of the soul of their god, and the most powerful fighter in a craft world. Then Marnus Calgar beat it to death. To be honest, it was written by Matt Ward, who is terrible at writing good fluff. They retreated. Probably this was the mental reaction of the Imperial forces after they found out that Legion Strassa, a woman who had been genetically modified with Xenos DNA to absorb biomass through her skin and morph any natural weapon she needs and had consequently gone rogue, I.E. female Alex Mercer, had single-handedly wiped out an assault marine squad, the first company veterans of the Imperial Fists, the Culexus Temple Grand Master, and nearly killed Captain Lysander. Generally this is the result of a squad having to take a leadership test. Sometimes it's psychic attacks or things like Ildari hallucinogen grenades, but most of the time, it's watching something very scary barreling at them with murder in its eyes, or half the squad dying horribly or in quick succession and reasonably figuring that they are next if they don't get out of there. The Warhammer Fantasy Wood Elves Army book has a picture of Nestra, Aruhan, and their dragon staring down a dwarven slayer, who has a priceless holy look on his face, although to be fair, he probably isn't complaining, or maybe he is reconsidering the choices that led him to this point. World of Darkness, every supernatural's reaction to the awakening of the Ravnos Antediluvian, a vampire a monster that existed and ruled over mankind before the flood, to consume all of his descendants. He dies after fighting with 3 equally godlike opponents, and surviving 3 spirit nukes to the face. It is this event, dubbed the Week of Nightmares, that puts the final nail in the coffin, signifying that the end of the world as we know it is finally here. 4 years later, other antediluvians start to awaken. Theater. In the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, this is Barfy's reaction when he discovers that the sticky floor won't allow him to use his magic foot to spell the word. Chip reacts similarly when he gets an erection right before he has to spell a word. In 1776, Franklin and then Jefferson realize that they're in serious trouble when Edward Rutledge asks for clarification about the anti-slavery clause in the Declaration. Franklin mutters "look out" when Rutledge first speaks, and Jefferson abruptly stands up when Rutledge starts to read it. Angels in America, Roy Cohn is halfway through gloating over finally managing to get Ethel Rosenberg to sing, when his heart rate monitor flatlines. He has just enough time to mutter "oh fuck," before collapsing. In the Book of Mormon, the two missionaries exiled to Uganda are painfully realizing that evangelization strategies tailored to affluent first world countries are not likely to work here. As Elder Cunningham is explaining Mormon theology to the local Ugandans, he comes to the foundation myth of how the Lamite people fell from sin and became accursed in the sight of God. As he tells a story which is perfectly acceptable in Utah and which was born in 19th century North America prior to the Civil War, it suddenly dawns on him. He is not evangelizing to white people. The tale of how the first black people were born, given the mark of Cain because of their sinful state, and made lesser beings in all their generations, is not going to get him a round of applause and a handshake. Hastily, he rescues the situation by substituting Chinese for black, which his congregation wholeheartedly agrees with. Note: in Locage Auxiliary Falls, Albin habitually takes off his Zaza wig after performing The Best of Times, and, suddenly realizing he's unmasked himself to the Dindons, says, "Oh, merd." In The Cat and the Canary, lawyer Roger Crosby has one of these moments as his last line. As does Charlie, when he is unmasked by Annabelle. If he's not being a literal death seeker, Rudolph from Elizabeth initially reacts like this when Death and his Angels shows up for the Mayerling Waltz. Hamilton, that was my wife you decided to fuh. The last scene of Hamlet has a couple of these. Hamlet has one when Laertes informs him that he's been poisoned by the foil and he's got less than a half hour to live, a lot less, as it turns out. Claudius gets the next one when it becomes clear that the jig is up. Hamlet is finally sufficiently motivated to kill him, and no one's about to prevent it. Cinderella from Into the Woods has her "oh, crap" moment when she realizes that the current trouble they're in is due to her throwing away the bean the baker's wife gave her. In what might be a crowning moment of "oh, crap," Macbeth has two of these when it dawns on him he might have taken the witch's truths a bit too literally. Or, more accurately, not literally enough. Margin for error has Horst's panicked reaction as it dawns on him that the consul wasn't joking about having him rubbed out by a Jew on his next mission. Horst, his uncritical belief in his heroic destiny is suffering a terrible strain. "You're trying to murder me. I won't have it. If Berlin's so hard up for a martyr, let them send one over. And they'd better send someone to kill him." Consul, is the American Führer not prepared to die for his Nazi principles? Horst, incoherent with fear. "No. I mean yes I mean, I haven't finished my memoirs yet, Consul." The Führer asks nobody to do what he wouldn't do himself. Enjolras in Les Miserables gets one when he realizes that Les Amis are about to get obliterated by the French army because no one has come to their aid. "The people have not stirred, we are abandoned by those who still live in fear, let us not waste lives, let all women and fathers of children go from here." The Phantom of the Opera pretty much boils down to the title character causing a series of these reactions in everyone else. Falling Chandelier of Doom, anyone? Sir Ruthven Murgatroyd from Ruddigary has three, when Richard unmasks him, forcing the title and it's be a punch clock villain or die horribly curse onto him, one when he realizes his misdemeanors won't cut it and he has to cross the moral event horizon or die, and again when Dame Hannah, the maiden Gideon Krall has kidnapped on his orders, appropriates a BFS and challenges Ruthven. 6. The musical has both of the beheaded queens realize the trouble they're in. Anne Boleyn, "Oh my god guys, Henry S. really gonna chop my head off." Howard has one as Thomas Culpeper reveals he too wants her sexually. Howard, he says we have a connection. In The Taming of the Shrew, Lucencio has switched places with his servant Tranio for the purposes of a zany scheme. Eventually, Tranio is told to produce his father and gets a pedant to impersonate Lucencio's dad. Everything's going well until Lucencio's real father shows up, at which point Tranio, the pedant, and Lucentio's other servant Biondello frantically deny knowing him and try to get him thrown in jail. Just when it looks as if this might actually work, Lucencio arrives on the scene. Biondello, oh! We are spoiled and yonder he is, deny him, forswear him, or else we are all undone. Lucencio, kneeling pardon, sweet father. Vincentio, lives my sweet son? Exeunt Biondello, Tranio, and pedant, as fast as may be. Toys. In Bionicle, Web of Shadows, King Sidoruk and his queen-to-be Rudaka are in battle with the beast Ketung. As they go in for the kill, Rudaka suddenly bails out, and Sidoruk realizes she didn't wound the Ketung, she pissed it off. Congratulations, Sidoruk, your second in command is the Starscream, and she's going to rule your armies without you. Bye. Happens again in the Destiny War serial when Vezin uses the Mask of Dimensional Gates to teleport himself to the exact spot where Helrix and Ketung are in trouble. He jumps out of the portal and then happens to see the massive wave of destructive/mutagenic energized protodermis coming towards him. Much earlier in the comics, after the Toa Nuva overload the Barak Kal with their own power, Golok Kal says that its power cannot be turned against it. And then it notices the Exo-Toa pieces flying at it, attracted by its own magnetic pull. Barak don't have facial expressions, but you can feel the OhCrap when it sees the hunks of metal flying at it. Oh, no. Visual novels. Ace Attorney has plenty of these, both heroic and villainous. A villainous one is in Apollo Justice Case 4, when Christoph Gavin gets told that the murder he all but just admitted to committing is being tried by a jury that just saw his huge streak of gloating. Then there's Ace Attorney Investigations where Edgeworth gets one when Callisto U pulls a gun on him after he does the usual corner the murderer thing. Matt Engard in the final case of the second game, when he realizes he's a dead man either way. The look combined with their villainous breakdown is one of the best moments in the series. It was also funny before when Shelley the Killer does an OhCrap through a radio, complete with it falling apart multiple times and sweating oil. Not that it tops the others, but in the fifth case of the first game, Damon Gant. He gloats for about 10 minutes about how horribly he's going to punish Phoenix, Edgeworth, Lana, Ema, Gumshoe, and every single person who tried to turn the tables on him using a very critical item as evidence. A minute later, Phoenix reveals one contradiction in the evidence that results in an OhCrap moment where Gant literally screams at the very moment of realization that said evidence suddenly makes the situation even worse for him. A notable heroic one happens in the second case of Trials and Tribulations. Ron DeLite is found not guilty of larceny, due to having an airtight alibi. The OhCrap comes a moment later when it turns out said alibi places him at the scene of a murder that was just reported, and Ron is hauled back off to prison to be tried for murder the following day. Another spectacular one is at the very end of Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice, when Ga Ran is trying, and failing, to prove she has the spiritual powers needed to rule the land. She doesn't, and looks behind her to see her Praetorian Guard has just realized she's a fake, and thus an usurper, and are aiming her rifles at her, ready to execute her for her deception. As brief as it is in the middle of the breakdown, it's spectacular. In the Danganronpa series, in general, most culprits have one when they're caught. In Danganronpa, Trigger Happy Havoc, the second culprit has one when the body is discovered and they realize the scene was tampered with after they left. In Danganronpa V3, Killing Harmony, Shuaki has a subtle one in the first trial right after he deduces that the culprit must have gotten the murder weapon, a shot-put ball, from the warehouse. He is remembering that Kaed had a shot-put ball when they left the warehouse. Double Homework has a couple of these moments. The protagonist has one when he realizes that his counter-blackmail conspiracy with Dr. Mosley/Zeta against Dennis won't work. Dennis also has one when he realizes that the cleanup crew wiped his storage devices, nixed all of his online accounts, and destroyed all his possessions. Fate/Stay Night. Gilgamesh vs Shiro at the end of UBW Route. To his credit, a lot of the fear is more irritation at the fact that some no-name brat just cut his arm off before he could even try using his wave motion sword. The oh crap factor of the realization he is losing is still partially deflected by how gigantic his ego is. From the first route, both Kyrie and Gilgamesh get a moment of this in their duels with Shiro and Saber respectively. Kyrie gets his when Shiro survives 2 curses containing all the evils of the world, ever, past, present and future. To be fair, Shiro did use Avalon to survive the second one, before Shiro runs up and pooches his chest out via an explosive magical dagger. Gilgamesh gets his when Saber uses Avalon to block Ea, his world-breaking wave motion sword, before she charges and cuts him in half with an Excaliblast. Gilgamesh gets quite a few of these, mostly when he realizes that yes, there are people who can beat him. From Heaven's Feel, there is the moment when True Assassin discovers that Ryder's chain dagger is lodged in his shoulder. Wall slamming ensues. Hatoful boyfriend gives you 2 options when Yuya is confronted by Dr. Shiyu and he lies about having been with you a few moments beforehand. You can choose to go along with Yuya's lie. But if you choose to tell Shiyu that he's lying, Yuya has just one thing to say. Yuya, shit. In Katawa Shoujo, Rin has this when she realizes that on Friday night, she only has one more day to complete her mural before the festival on Sunday. Several in Melody. The protagonist's reaction when Bethany shows up at the door of his new apartment. Hank's reaction when he realizes that Bethany tricked him into giving her backstage access to one of Melody's concerts also qualifies. Generally, any response from the protagonist that leads to a bad ending falls under this heading. In Sickness, this is said aloud by Suo right before he almost passes out after his first day of training. Domenico, when they cry. Episode 6, From Shiromi Yakirie cannot save battler to you told me I could make the detective proclamation whenever I wanted, right? Well, unfortunately, I am no longer capable of making that proclamation. In Episode 3, this is Eva Beatrice's reaction to Beatrice deciding to deny the existence of all witches, after which she panics but is held down by Renove until Beato's denial burns her away. Feedback. Video example, S. Ain't Wendell Wilk. Upon reading about gremlins who like to wreck planes with their diabolical sabotage, Bugs laughs at the idea of their existence, before shortly meeting a creature trying to set off the bomb he's sitting on. Bugs tries to help him out before quickly snapping to his senses, and upon notices that the little critter is gone, wonders if he just saw a gremlin. The creature in question confirms it before causing the rabbit to hop in pain. Example of griping about gremlins. The dragon speaks. Hot dogs. 18 the SC. Christine. Super Bew erased. Emerald of Kill. Renier. Kid Pirates Day. Fav. Mr. Information. Todd's death. Opening up the. Ed's bad mood. El Mungo stink. Steamed with a. Robo enforcers. My thighs. Cockadoodle who? The baby monitor. I hate you, th. Mooseberries. Jokermango's death. Ed goes to work. He named it the. Laura Limpin. Uh-oh. Large brother. Evil Bew kills. Orange. Annoying orange. High jump. Midnight beer D. Code red. Encounter with. Saving the professor. Where's Kyoya? Solid tin coyote. Kiawe. Spike beats up Tom. Forgot about Bulletin. Vegeta vs. Geez. They won't let. Blitzy-kun. Evacuating Edora. Homicidal Colt. Eggman's worst. No free rides. Resurrections. Embarrassment. Previous. Index. Next. OC. Stand-in. Square peg round trope /L to P. Omnipresent tropes. Older than feudalism. PT/Indus de Traduco. The oldest ones in the book. Obligatory earpiece touch. Body language. Palm on cheek pose. Noticing the fourth wall. Realization index. Personal horror. Off-screen moment of awesome. No real life/tropes L2O. Old man marrying a child. Canadian Football League. Useful notes/Canadian history. Grim up north. Obviously evil. Just for fun/tropes of legend. The oldest ones in the book. N-word privileges. Administrivia/pothole magnet. Overly long gag. Obvious pregnancy. Quote source/comic strips. Outside genre foe. Offended by an enemy's indifference. Character reaction index. Ominous adversarial amusement. Nothing is the same anymore. Surprise tropes. Delayed crap. Obliviously evil. Administrivia/image pick in special cases. Once upon a time. Now you tell me. Stock phrases. Oh God, with the verbing. Off-screen reality warp. Comedy tropes. Oh, crap. Fake out. Disney. Image source/Disney animated canon. Pinned to the ground. Offering another in your stead. Fear tropes. Oh, crap. Fake out. Off the wagon. Truth in television/M2O. Old flame fizzle. Show spoilers. Night vision. Sticky header. Wide load. Important links. Ask the Troper Strope Finder Media Finder Trope Launchpad Tech Wish List Reviews Go ad free. Crucial browsing. Resources. Advertisement. Top. Edit page. Related. History. Discussion. To do. More.